I always say this, and it's true, polygyny is not happening to me alone or Coach Nazir alone or Coach Nyla alone or our children alone. Mm-hmm. It's happening to each one of us in different ways.
And hear dialogue and context around those different perspectives. And do you mind, though, introducing yourselves? Because I told my viewers a little bit about you all, but not as much as you could probably know.
Coach Nyla.
Okay.
Fatimah, Coach Fatimah.
Nice to meet you.
Long been married and stuff like that.
We're co-wives, co-founders of outstanding personal relationships. Okay, we do that a lot. So, but we've been in polygyny, married 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Married 25 years to Coach Nazir, polygyny for 10.
I have 5 biological children, 7 beautiful bonus babies. Yeah.
And then we're going to reverse it. I have 7 biological children and 5 bonus babies.
Awesome.
I'm Coach Nyla, the husband. Again, 25 years of coach. Coach Fatimah, then 10 years with Coach Nyla, as you just heard. And all in all, we have a dozen children, 10 biological, 2 bonus. And we are the co-founders of OutstandingPersonalRelationships.com, where we teach and we coach and share online programs and empowerment when it comes to pro-marriage, period. No matter whether it's monogamy, polygyny, relationships, and personal development. But we really focus, or at least have a specialty in the area of polygyny and really expanding your family as a king versus being average, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I wanted to ask y'all before we get into the different topics and such, what led you all to be coaches and just kind of coach people relate? Because it's one thing, I'm married, I have 2 children, and it's one thing to be, married. It's another thing to advise others on marriage. So what led you all to doing that?
Well, the need. We knew as we expand our family, again, it's one thing, that, like you said, to be married and to have your family. But then when you deal with working with others, see, a little bit into my background is that I was one of those that was told by the time you're 21, you'd be locked up or dead. I was headed on that path for quite some time. I was raised Christian throughout high school and pretty much became that stereotype, if you will. Okay. And I had become Muslim. I had accepted Islam back in 95-ish, 94, 95, when I was 17 years old and decided to change my life around at the time. Now, with that being said, when you go from changing your belief system and your value system and evaluate and recognize the different lies you've been told, a lot of stuff you grew up on wasn't true, you begin to just wipe a clean sheet and start from square one, right? So square zero is where it started from. So with that, there was a whole new belief system. And I got involved in entrepreneurship in the mid-90s. And I started learning about leadership and strategy and marketing and teamwork and a lot of these things. So I began to learn the effectiveness of these strategies in business, but a lot of these business principles also apply to your family. So I started to implement that within my family so far as, family meetings, learning about personal growth and being intentional with alignment. And with that happening, I began to coach other people, began leading a large team and became a leader, even though I was reluctant. I'm light skinned. I was nervous. I would turn like red and pink and stuff like that sometimes, speaking in front of crowds. But I had somebody saw more of me than I saw myself. So ultimately what I learned was that you have to study, practice, then teach. And since when we expanded our family, decided to participate in polygyny, and when I made that decision, didn't nobody else really make that decision. They're married to me individually. We're not all married to each other type stuff, right? But what happened was that we recognized that there were no resources that talked about the practicality of how it's done, period. As Black people was doing it in the West. I mean, whether Muslims, they could tell you the some good advice. We didn't really need advice. We need some strategy. We want to know how to dig deep. We know there are no cookie cutters. So after we went through and learned a lot of stuff and dealt with our challenges and ups and downs and so on, and got to a place of peace and comfort, we're like, there's a lot of people that are divorces and stuff that are happening. Friends are getting divorced. A lot of pain is still going on, and there's still not much so far as resources. So, like Gandhi's old saying, when he said, become the change you want to see in the world, we decided, listen, you know what? We had to weigh our privacy, because most people who participate in polygyny are ostracized. And so, one of the most successful ways you can be at is to be quiet, mind your own business in your own marriage, and be good. That's where we were at. We had a place of peace. So we had to weigh that versus helping others and being a resource. Okay,
I'm glad you went into that, because I've talking to people in private who are polygamous or polygynous, and a lot of them say that they prefer to be private about it. They don't want anybody to know, mainly because of friends and family. And I'm going to get into the topics of today, but since you brought this up, I really want to know, like, that's a big sacrifice. So how was that, just saying, hey, here we are publicly?
I think it was kind of a slow progression. What happened with the three of us that I've noticed personally is that people would ask us questions constantly, individually, every time, or they DM, or they would text individually. So it's almost like getting smoked out. Like, you guys are coaches in marriage and polygyny. Why don't you just, I've had people say to both of us, sisters we've talked to, at separate instances, say, well, I talked to your co-wife and she was telling me the same thing, and this was maybe 3 years ago. And I said, well, people are confident that we're going to give them good information that's honest, that's transparent, and we're going to tell them our story of struggle individually. Because I always say this, and it's true, polygyny is not happening to me alone, or Coach Nazir alone, or Coach Nyla alone, or our children alone. It's happening to each one of us in different ways. So we had a lot of people ask us a lot of questions over the years to see what we would say. So we're like this, what do they call it, an unintentional hero?
That's pretty much it. I mean, we've been coaches on different things anyway before we decided to coach on marriage and polygyny and relationships and things like that. I came from being a women's lifestyle coach and coaching women to, being the better you, so to speak. And, but the thing is, when it came into polygyny, for us to, this journey of us being public about it, my family, I say the family or relatives that mattered, they knew already. So, and when I first let them know about polygyny, or when they first got wind of it, or whatever the case may be, I had to be confident within myself. I had to be confident in my marriage and my lifestyle and my family before I let somebody else come in and, what I say, blow holes or shoot holes into my family and into my marriage or anything like that. So once I think that we were like what Coach Nyla said, as far as the practicing and then, starting to teach and everything like that, when we were practicing, we were at a place of peace, it was easier to come and be public because we already knew. We came to each other and was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. Yes, we will have blowback. Yes, there are going to be some people, some naysayers and things as far as that. But are we prepared for this? And we're like, we know this. We're prepared because we are in a place in our relationships that couldn't nobody tear it up. So once it got to that point, I think it was just like, okay, now we can help other people get to that place too. Now, they don't have to be where we are and spread it out to the world, but we can help them be in a place of peace where nobody can break them up.
Right, if they're willing to work on it.
Yeah.
Now, for me, just briefly, I don't care. We too old to really care about what other people's opinions and all that stuff are anyway. And the things that we've been through in life. I mean, once you change your whole religion, all right, so you're going to get ostracized and talked about anyway. And that happened as a teenager. I got married first when I was 19 years old. You're going to have a problem with that too. You're going to get talked about crazy anyway. We Black in America. There can be a problem with that too. Even though I'm light skinned, we Black in America, right? So getting to these things, you already grow a thick skin and don't care anything about that. You know what I'm saying? Where we are and everything right now, I mean, all of us we're in our 40s. So it's different. Gray hairs come in, they letting you know, right? So it doesn't matter. What matters is the amount of people that are still in pain and that are still having these challenges and they really don't have a path forward. Then it's our responsibility, if we find that type of solution, to go ahead and share it, to help them, to empower them and equip them, and to let them know at least something is there. If you don't want it, that's cool. You know, we want to help those who are serious versus those who are curious. So who cares what anybody say? People going to talk regardless.
Word. That's true.
Exactly.
And that takes me into the real first topic. So I was glad we got to kind of get into that. But the real first topic I had in mind was actually the fact that divorce rates right now are going up. And coronavirus has actually made them go up more. I don't know if you're familiar with just the fact that since everybody's been enclosed together, people have been having more arguments. They've been having a harder time getting along. It's like the holiday thing when the holidays come, divorce rates go up. And honestly, and I'm not saying this to anybody watching to say that I'm better. Me and my wife didn't really have this problem, but I know that some of my friends and their significant others did have this problem. And now I don't understand the science of it, but this is your field. So I wanted to kind of have a discussion about it on why are divorce rates going up, period. And then just can we talk about how somehow being trapped with your significant other or your partner, your wife or your husband, how can that create such a hostile environment like divorce?
I remember, just real quick, I remember this quote that said that if you want to learn who someone is or understand who they are, go on a trip with them. And divorce can be marriage can be a long trip. But if you're in the house, it becomes different because people they're starting to feel encapsulated with someone against their will. It's different when everything's kind of free flowing and we're all going in and out and in and out. You start to see the different personality types, and we do talk about that, the importance of personality types. And I love learning about each one of our personality types in our family. That's very important to understand who you're with, and oftentimes being with someone in the house a long time, you'll find out, And unfortunately, even close friends of ours are experiencing divorces or, in quarantine. Again, it has not helped the situation.
And it goes, to just ride on that also, it goes with knowing yourself and knowing your values. Many times we don't know whether or not we are compatible with someone else outside of just the superficial things, a good conversation, or somebody might have a good outlook or some goals or attractiveness. So knowing us is the challenge. One of the things we talk about with personal development, since everything comes back to self, we talk about self-awareness, we talk about self-discipline and self-care even. It all starts with us. So knowing what our values are. For us, for example, that's not having to go anywhere outside of just trying to get some fresh air. That's not necessarily a problem. Okay, the reason is though, because we value peace. Peace is a high value in our household. Okay, and what that looks like, she know what it looks like. She know what it looks like for me. I know what it looks like for them. So knowing that can be, one that can provide you a peace and can be a lifesaver, because now you're dealing. And Coach Nyla talked about, or Coach Fatimah talked about personality types, right? If you don't know your personality type, as an example, we really like the Briggs-Myers or Myers-Briggs personality test, and really finding out the 16 different personalities. You can take the quiz on.
Wait, I'm sorry, what's it called?
Briggs-Myers personality test. So like a human metrics, or Myers-Briggs. It's called MBTI. The Myers-Briggs Typology Indicator is the official thing, right? But humanmetrics.com, you can take the quiz, or 16personalities.com. So the digit 16personalities.com. But when you understand more about yourself, for example, I'm an INTJ. So I'm more introverted. I'm good with quietness, being on a computer, hearing some basic stuff, music playing or working or what have you. I'm good there. Like for hours, I can really get some stuff done and be straight. Her personality type?
What is INTJ though?
No, the architect, the mastermind.
The INTJ.
You have the I is introverted. The N is intuition. And again, it goes over the whole different thing. The T is the thinking, the more rational, and the J is the judging. we're not going to go into the whole thing about that because you can go on YouTube and find it out. But if you don't know your personality type, like I couldn't be just chilling with an INTJ, somebody like myself. We wouldn't get along. It's not really going to work. Okay. But knowing that and understanding just our personality types and traits allows you to know you and know your values, what's very important to you. So knowing your core values is even more essential. That in and of itself can help bring people together because it lets them know what helps lift up a marriage and also what brings it down. But if you don't have that knowledge, you'll keep clashing and have no idea why. Resentment to build, and you're going to separate, divorce, or what have you. Really kind of comes from that. And again, we're pro-morals. So it doesn't matter your form of marriage or whatever, but as long as you have those morals and if you value peace, then that time together is nothing. It's horrible to be in the world, to work and deal with all kind of stuff and come home and then have hell. But when you have home as a place of refuge and peace and solace, you could be there. That's not, you good. That's not going to the hole or being locked up or in prison. But it starts up here. I'm sorry, I'm going on for a little bit on the tangent.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
No, I wanted to get to Coach Nyla because I know she wanted to really talk about that having a house as people.
I was like,
like the divorce rate and everything going up. People can't be around each other.
What is it again? Yeah. Well, that part about, knowing you and knowing, not only just knowing you, but the personality types. I love, so Coach Fatimah was, I call her like she's the guru of the personality types because she know what each of our hot buttons, all that stuff, just each person. But being able to know that about yourself and then also knowing that about your spouse, because you're saying being trapped. If that's your mindset of you're feeling like you're trapped, then you're going to feel trapped. If you're going to have a negative outlook on being with a person that you're supposed to love or a person that you said to death do us part or whatever you said about that, all of that from good times and bad and all that stuff. But now it's like, oh, here we go. It's the bad times and I'm just talking stuff. As long as you're looking at that as that way, it's going to be negative. I mean, and seriously, and I'm saying this and I say it from like experience, I can have like a bad day or I can have it could be a bad moment or whatever. If I totally turn it on and say, what can I learn from this? How can I, feel better about this or just throw on some good music or something like that? I'm feeling good. We can choose to feel the way we feel. Period. So if we feel like we're trapped, if we feel like our spouse is getting on our nerves, if we feel like any of these things, it's going to exacerbate the situation. It's going to make it worse. But if you say, you know what? Let me look at it in a different way. Maybe this person is annoying me or I think they're annoying me. Maybe they need some attention. Maybe that's what they're asking me without asking me. And so when you do that and you open up those lines of communication, even by asking them, hey, do you want to spend some time with me? Hey, do you want me to leave you alone for a second? I can go over here and I can read my book or whatever the case may be, because you know what these hot buttons are. Not only do you know what these hot buttons are, you also open up the lines of communication. The thing is, people are afraid to communicate. People are afraid to communicate with each other because sometimes they're afraid of hearing the response.
Or they think they're going to get shut down.
Yeah. It's funny that you bring that up because one thing that me and my wife value a lot in our relationship is just being honest with each other and also not taking honesty too personally, right? But also I have to be mindful of the way I'm honest. That's one thing I learned.
Don't be rude.
Right? Yeah, because I've been raised in a household like my mom. She'd be like, you love somebody, you be honest. So, but my mom, fortunately told me that. I think that's true. But unfortunately, she didn't give me the rules and regulations around that. Right. So I would just, sometimes I'll just be like, to my friends, sometimes, I would say something like, Dad, and so I had to kind of learn, especially being married, especially to my wife, I really had to learn how to do that. But I also wanted to create an environment with her that she could be honest with me as well and tell me when I am either crossing a line, when she's uncomfortable with something, or when I'm just being annoying. Obviously I have a podcast, I could talk a lot, so she might want to relax, and I'm sitting here talking about this book I just read. I'm like, I just read this book. And sometimes, sometimes I invite, which she will tell me. Some people might see it rude, but she will tell me sometimes, honestly, I just want to kind of lay down right now. And I'm like, oh, all right, cool. I don't take it offense to it. I'm like, oh, okay, my bad. I'll talk to you about it tomorrow. So yeah, that honesty it is really important. I like how you all speak to peace in the house and how that's so. I think in our house we call it order, but I like peace because it puts something on top of that like that. Like valuing peace. I remember me and my wife literally had a meeting about that. Like I think we were only married for a couple weeks, but my wife is a stay-at-home mother. So, as you probably already heard in relationships, I might come home stressed from work, and she might be a little stressed from baby work. That's what I call it, which is real work too. And we come together, and we're both like, so we had to talk and decide. Okay, we're both tired, and we both want peace, we want to relax. So we got to figure out how we can work together to kind of achieve this in the household. And so, I think in marriage is important to just communicate that honesty and hold peace up here, So I think that's really amazing. I also wanted to speak to you all on just the topic of you brought it up a couple of times, being not just being Muslims in America, but being Black in America. And I wanted to just unload that a little bit before you three go into it. For me, I had a very Muslim name growing up. Eloheem is my name as well, but I was originally just born with Raheem. It was just Raheem Isam Ali, and my mom moved us to a white neighborhood, and so it was that. But then after 9/11, people always felt the need to have to ask me, "Are you Muslim?" Like, really like, hey, like trying to make sure, and so I always had to unload that, and I have a lot of family members who are Muslims on my mom's side, especially on my father's side, and on my in-law side. So in America today, it is a lot going on, and socially, and being a Muslim in Black America doesn't really help those things socially, as far as social pressures and things of that nature. Can you just speak to your experience of just being I don't like calling us minorities, but just kind of, you do have a situation where you are a minority on a minority on a minority, right? Black, Muslim, polygynous, like, so can you just speak to how it is in America right now for you all?
America is America. It is what it is. We've always been outcast. So again, that goes into the having thick skin. It is what it is. We care less of what America thinks and America's imaginary values and what it was founded. We know what it was founded on. We know the real. Okay, so go ahead.
No, that's it. What you said, we know what it's founded upon. That's the thing where we even teach our kids about history and identity and things like that. And once we are strong with that, the other stuff, you are resilient. What's going on. You know what's going to happen. This is not something that's coming at you where you're like, oh my gosh, what happened? I remember when I converted to Islam, and I remember my mom telling me, she's not Muslim yet, working on that. However, she, before now, because she's way more, she's total better person. But when I talked to her before, when I converted to Islam, she was like, you Black, you a woman, and now you Muslim, that's going to look like three strikes, it's kind of almost a three strikes against you part in America. It's like you Black, you woman, and you Muslim. Now what? You have all your opportunities are shot, type of thing. And that was coming from my mom. And so, but my thing is, I say, you know what? I could not choose to be Black. I did not choose to be a woman. And I said, yes, Islam is my choice, but I know Islam is the truth, and I choose to walk the truth. And my thing is, I said, my whole thing is at the end of my life, that's what matters to me. It's not about what's here and everything like that. As long as I'm working towards pleasing the law and what my hereafter looks like, that's the thing. And that's kind of what we teach the younger ones, because that keeps us grounded. Those are the things that keeps us grounded. So all the other stuff, so these people aren't coming to my funeral. They don't have anything to do with my hereafter. They're not going to send me anywhere great and fantastic. Right. So why do I care about what they think? They don't care about us. So that's kind of the mindset. And since that's been the mindset, the other stuff don't matter.
I remember reading this quote. It was like, yo, being black is lit.
Yeah, it is.
But it's also dangerous.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
word.
So it is what it is.
Just another day at the office.
And so speaking to your, I don't know how old your children are, but
oldest is 25, youngest, we'll be 25 in a couple of weeks, and our youngest is 2.
It's crazy because Black people, they'll tell you the age, but you be like, what? I was thinking oldest, preteen, but okay. So, what have you taught them on this topic of like kind of navigating through the world with all of this, going on? As you know, Trump getting into office did not help the prejudices of being Black or being Muslim in America. But I would say more of an emphasis on Islamophobia as of late. And I always tell people there's a difference between disagreeing with someone's ideologies and dehumanizing someone for their ideologies. And it seems like in this kind of, I call it echo chamber culture, where kind of people are kind of getting into that. So how do you teach your kids on like, getting through all of that?
Well, mentally, a couple things. One, about Trump. Now, I don't like Trump. Don't support him. Never voted for him. Won't vote for him. But I need to be clear, though. Some of his stuff being in office is actually pretty good.
Okay.
When you think about it like this. The movement that we currently have going on right now across the country with police reform, would that have been available if this overt, continual racism would not still be present? You know what I'm saying? I think more people are kind of opening their eyes to it because of him, his bigotry and what he's, is really put out there. So some of the time we have to look for the silver lining in it, because unfortunately as Black people, I mean, we know we're not a monolith, but unfortunately we really like style over substance. So when it comes to praising Obama and loving all that, he did more for gay folks and stuff like that than he did for Black folks.
Yeah.
But of course, he ain't Black. Which is a very important distinction. I mean, him and his whole family know where he came from and how Joe Brown really broke that down and stuff like that. I mean, he doesn't have the Black experience. I mean, his skin color was brown, but I mean, to be frank, I mean, he's Kenyan American. So it's a big difference between calling himself African American or Black American. What we know how that deals with identity. Now, what we do for our family is we have a weekly family meeting that, we've been doing that for over a year now. And that's where we are intentional with teaching and sharing with our children. Now, when it goes to schooling, we've done the Muslim schools, we've done the Montessori schools, we've done homeschooling. We even do, virtual schooling and homeschooling right now. So our 4 daughters, they all graduated high school online through virtual schools. So they have to deal with the whole peer pressure of the drama, of the sexual stuff going on, bullying, a lot of that stuff through virtual schooling. So we're still in this again, because kids from 2 to 25, one graduated college already, another one went to another state, was studying Arabic and so on. But the main thing is that we are intentional with our teaching. One of the things I teach, we have this company called Outstanding Muslim Parents, and we teach what's called the 3 C's. That's celebrity, confidant, and coach. So the celebrity is pretty much mom is the superstar, all right? Dad is a star, mom is a superstar. That's the one they want more than anything when they're younger in their first stage of life. But the confidant is what I want to talk about. The confidant is the one that's approachable. You can speak to, you can kind of share, different secrets and whatnot with, but the confidant helps you read between the lines. Yeah. So the confidant will let you know, as our responsibility as parents to our children, is what the term thug means. When they say thugs or these riots and so on, when it comes to us, or people of color in particular, versus them, if you will. So when they talk about these Muslims or was that a terrorist or how this is not a terrorist attack, all the stuff looks like it's a white boy that did it. Now it's self-defense, or how the police walk right past them, for example, even though they're saying this guy shot. So we have to be that confidant for our children. So when we talk about like Jane Elliott, white woman, she should be the head of all education in the country, but we know how the system is formed. She's been talking about if you had go to school, all you're being taught is white supremacy. If you don't come out a racist, then the system is not working. So she's anti-racist. And you got Tim Wise, another white dude. He talks about this anti-racism stuff, and I only mention it because they white. Usually white people like to hear from other white people, because if they say it, they echo what we've been saying and experiencing for decades and hundreds of years, then people tend to hear it. Yeah. So it's not that we have to educate them on these things, but our children, we have to focus on educating. So when it goes into find out whether it's the life of Malcolm X or even the documentary Who Killed Malcolm X, we watched it and discussed it as a family. When we're talking about being prepared and knowing about currency versus money and understanding the financial side and entrepreneurship and being a boss versus being an employee, being in more control or charge than, just following, we have to take that responsibility and initiative. And we do that intentionally on our weekly meetings and in our other, our daily conversation with our children, because we want to raise them to be independent. So that's, whether it's them watching the news, talking about the George Floyd situation, talking about protesting, talking about rioting, talking about the European American slave trade, or why they call it the transatlantic slave trade, because they try to put slavery off of them, whether it's educating them on how Mansa Musa, the richest person ever lived, how he became the Mansa there, the king there. He became that because his brother Abu Bakr abdicated his kingdom, and he took 2,000 ships to sail west. Yeah. So we was over here already more than 800 some years ago. You know what I'm saying? When the richest man on the planet gave his kingdom to his brother, who we know as Mansa Musa, but we lose that connection in seeing world history and how that affects and how we were with the natives and everything else, and already been over here as indigenous to this land way before Columbus. Right. So once you open that up and start to break that down, they get into it with different teachers or other individuals trying to tell them something different, because now their mind is open a lot wider and they have the education to handle it versus the schooling. And Mark Twain said, never let schooling interfere with your education.
You know what? Speaking as someone who teaches, I specifically teach Black history to fourth and fifth graders. I am just excited that you all are, talking to folks like that, because my mother had a similar tradition to sit us down and talk to us and watch these things, but it didn't really start until, again, we moved to a white neighborhood and I was coming home. And I remember when I wrote they said, write your heroes on a sheet of paper. And one of my heroes I wrote was, it was like my mom, my dad, Michael Jackson, and Malcolm X, right? And so I wrote Malcolm X. She said, oh, my teacher said, you can't write Malcolm X down.
Here are 3 ways outstanding personal relationships can help you.
One is by following us on our social medias. Follow us on IG at Outstanding Relationships and on Facebook and YouTube at Outstanding Personal Relationships. And make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell.
Number 2, make sure you head over to outstandingpersonalrelationships.com and subscribe to the email list. From there, you will get downloads as well as updates, any and all updates. And you also get an update on the release of our new book, Let's Talk Polygyny, Uncensored.
Number 3, if you are serious about polygyny relationships and really developing fulfillment and happiness, make sure you register for our Relationship Mastery Inner Circle, which is members only, which includes downloads, it includes access to us live on a weekly basis. So that's at outstandingpersonalrelationships.com/RM. We'll see you soon. Assalamu alaikum.
Peace.